Got it. Hello.
John, how are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's so nice to talk to you.
Nice to meet you.
Absolutely. My name's Anna Marie. I'm the one that's been chatting with you a little bit. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Our group is going to be so excited.
So, how are you today? You all right?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Saturday, so it's 11 a.m. here. I think it's 5 p.m. where you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 17:05 here, so it's probably 11:05 with you.
Yeah. And you are in. So I took a couple notes here. Is it Trelawis? Is that how you pronounce it?
Trelawis, which means in Welsh it means Lewistown, which
Lewistown?
Lewistown, which was owned by a squire named William Lewis, which was a long time ago, and he owned a good bit of land.
Yeah.
So that's where the name Trelawis came from.
Wales has such a rich history.
Oh yes, yes. It's like for such a small country, which is a face of a pig, we have got a lot. Yeah, if you ever look at it, if you ever look at Great Britain, you look where Wales is.
Mhm.
Look at the pointy nose, which is Pembrokeshire, and
Uh-huh.
look at the rest of it. It looks like a pig.
Oh my gosh. I'm definitely going to have to look at because I looked it up on the map last night because I know you're in the southeast corner of Wales, correct? I had to think about that.
Yes,
Southeast.
that's right.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Are you close to the nose of the pig?
No, no, no. That's Pembroke. I'm closer to a place called Cardiff, which is about 60 miles.
And Cardiff is where they filmed Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Or if you try to be Welsh, Cardiff. so, so
Oh,
that's and also as well, there's a DOP, and he's got the surname Cardiff, Jack Cardiff. He shot the Red Shoes and also Rambo First Blood Part 2.
oh my
But that's the only way you could know the DOP with the surname Cardiff. And
Oh wow. That's
so,
amazing.
but no, I live about 60 miles. If you go up the A4, the A470, which is the Welsh equivalent to the A40,
Mhm.
and I'm probably talking gibberish, but that's how you get to my area if you go up the A470 about 60 miles.
There you go.
So,
16,
mhm,
16 miles.
16 miles, 1 6.
Okay, you're
So,
getting close.
mhm.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. We're so excited. So for everybody watching, this is John Ninnis. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, Ninnis, and
I think you're freezing a
there's
little
a
bit.
bit of history about the Ninnises, but that's another story.
Okay,
Yeah, because
perfect.
there is like even though there's small like a small version of Joneses, we've also got a lot of bit of history as well,
Oh yeah.
from from Belgrave Ninnis, who was an explorer, and there's actually a glacier called Ninnis Glacier.
Oh my gosh.
If you ever Google it and type down Ninnis Glacier, you would find
I'm gonna write that down.
a Belgrave Ninnis.
I just wrote that down because I'm going to look that up after we're done talking
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Uh, so you are a supporting artist. Uh,
Yes, I've been a supporting artist, or supporting artist, if you want to be. It all depends. If you want to be posh, supporting artist or
artiste. So what is the
artist.
proper way to say it in the industry? What is
Oh,
the
well,
actual way to say it?
well, for me, I rather support
Oh,
an artist, but you get some people's like, I'm a supporting artist. But but
yeah.
I'm not. I'm not fussy, so I don't mind. I don't mind. It's just been like little jobs I've been doing over, say, the last 18, 19 years, on and off, just earn a little bit of money. Whether it's been on Doctor Who, I was on Chris Eccleston's Doctor through where the ghost comes out the new theatre. And
Yep.
then I didn't do it, the Doctor Who's then, until a couple of years later, and I was a Dorothy Skellington or Matt Smith's Doctor Who, and I got kicked by Matt Smith a couple of times.
Hey, one for the
and
resume.
and then I was Roy's double in the same series. It was the final episode of Amy Pond and Roy Williams's episode,
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was quite
and
enough.
I was his double, and so I did 2 days where I was young Roy and got hugged by Karen Gillan and got pushed, and which you don't see the cut. And then the following day, she was holding my hand because I was old Roy, and so that
Oh.
was 2 days
Oh,
of just being hugged and holding Karen Gillan's hand.
that's not a bad day on set.
No, no, it's not.
I mean,
but,
you know,
but
especially being involved in Doctor Who at all is a pretty amazing experience,
and
sure.
and yeah, yeah, and it was quite a quirky experience because um they'd be talking about chicken farts, and all that, because Arthur DeVille, when he was having a quiet moment, he was on the internet and he was finding out about chicken farts. I don't know what the story was, but he was talking about chicken farts.
Coworkers look up the weirdest things together. We do that, and I mean, I do that at my workplace. We have the weirdest discussion, so that does not surprise me at all. That's amazing.
Yes,
Uh,
but
so how did you get involved, like
and
how did you get involved in the world of acting? How did that begin for you? Because I know you're a filmmaker and photographer as well.
I'm
Was
a I'm more of a filmmaker than an than an actor, whereas I use the extra work as just being on the set, seeing how things work, and then use that for my professionalism sort of thing.
Mhm.
And we even seeing like how actors work and how the crew work, and even the essays. Like I know some people see, excuse me, essays as a little bit background and all that, but I think they do create an atmosphere for the actors, if
Yep,
that makes sense.
absolutely. That's what we
You
believe.
know, it's like even I could be just the background, just walking past, and then I've also been uh, if the director, if the main, because usually when you work as a supporting artist, you get directed by the second or third assistant director,
Okay.
and but sometimes you could also get directed by the actual director if he's trying to get the main actor to react, sort of thing. And if you get directed by a main director, you get paid more.
That's how it works. Okay.
And because I did first time I worked with a main director. There was a TV show called The History of Mr. Polly with Lee Evans, the comedian stroke actor.
Okay.
And I was directed by a Scottish director. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Gillis McKinnon. He he worked on the, Simple Twist of Fate with Steve Martin in the 90s, and
Oh, okay. Yeah.
he worked on with Kate Winslet on Idiot's Kinky and Regeneration with Jonathan Price, and he did
Wow.
this ITV production called The History of Mr. Polly, and I had to lift up with 4 other people, lift up Lee Evans as a celebrational thing, because he saves an old woman, even though from a fire, even though he started the fire.
Oh no.
That was the story, because his house was because his business was going decline. He decides to commit suicide unsuccessfully, and he starts a fire. But then the fire spreads to the shop next door, so he saves her life. So everybody thinks he's this hero. So as a little celebration, me and 5 other people lift him up, and we were lifting him up in the middle of this rainy Cowbridge a place called Cowbridge that they set up and all that. And so that's when I got directed by a director.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, you get paid more
Yeah.
and all that. And you know, and then there was a TV show I did called Stella, and I had to react to one of the main characters. There was a character named Rob, played by Mark Lewis Jones. He's like
Outlander.
Hmm?
Is it Mark
Yes.
Lewis Jones on Outlander? He's Tom Christie.
Yeah, he's been in a couple of things. He's done a lot of Welsh productions,
Yes.
but he also have been in a couple of international stuff. I think his big break was Paper Mask with Paul McGann, and he played like one of the central. Like I first heard about him with TV shows like Crash and Stella, but he's been in the business since the 80s. You know, and
Fantastic actor.
yeah, brilliant actor. Because I was one of the crew on a short film that a friend of mine I met in film school, named John Ninnis, and I met Mark at that time, you know, at this short film, and he, you know, he's a lovely, you know, down to earth character, and all that.
Yeah, I bet. What a career. I mean, my goodness. So how did you become involved with and encounter the world of Sanditon? How did you become acquainted with it?
It was with an agency called Mad Dog, and I just had a text, and this was in when COVID was sort of calming down a bit, you know,
Mhm.
and it was just like, all right, we're looking for people to work on Sanditon, and I said okay. So from October of 21, I kept on traveling to this area. I can't remember the name of the area now. It's sort of between Bath and Bristol, and then we had to go to the I think named the house now.
Stone Easton Park.
my mind's sort of gone blank at the moment. Stanton House. Yeah, yes.
Is it
And
Stone Easton Park?
I
Yeah.
was expecting it. I was expecting it to be one day, and I was there on and off for 3 to 4 weeks, and mainly on series 3 as a footman. And I did an hour of season 2. There was it was what I call a pickup, and I just had to open the door for the Colbourne family.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
just you know, so there was just you know, just 1 hour opening the door for the Colbourne family come along.
Oh.
And I had to open the door, and then there was like a little corner that I had to hide in because not for the camera to catch me or anything like that. So I think it was just a close up of my hand just opening the door of season 2. I haven't got the faintest idea what episode it was in. It was just like just come in, opening the door, and go back out. And but it was mainly season 3 I worked on. So I met characters like James Bolan, Anne Reid,
Fabulous.
Kate Ashfield from Shaun of the Dead,
Yes, we love Kate.
Yeah, and the one who plays Tom, and I got a story about him.
It's Marshall.
Yeah, Chris Marshall, that's
Yeah.
him. Lovely guy, but there's a story. It was on the second day where I was the footman holding these tray of drinks, and he was talking to James Bolan now, and as he was picking up this drink, he was wearing these leather gloves, and as he's picking up this glass, because he couldn't feel the glass, he dropped it on my tray, and it went everywhere. Luckily, I was still holding the tray. And he was like, I'm really sorry. Like, and it was like, I said, there's no problem. I thought it's usually someone like me that should do tipping the drinks over the star, not the star tipping, trying to tip the drinks over me, you know. And but it was all like, it was funny, and he was he was quite nice, quite a good guy. So
I bet.
and it was sort of like just like briefs. I'm Johnny. This is Chris, and sort of on the days he was on the shoot. Good morning, John. How are you? And just brief, just in between the takes, sort of thing.
That's
And
wonderful.
and James Boland as well.
Mhm.
Him and Anne on the first day, because I was holding this tray in between the takes, like I was holding a tray, and Anne Reid was like, "Excuse me, young man, you could put the tray down in between the takes," and it was like, "I'm all right," and it was like, "No," they said, "Like you're only human. Put it down, just because previously there was another essay that's dropped something because they were holding it for ages, sort of thing, and and some of the drinks went all over his white socks, sort of thing, and it was like, but it was like, it was okay, because as I was about to put the tray down, right, we're in for a take now, so but it wasn't that bad, but it was great that they were looking out for me, James and Anne, because it was one of those conversations, sort of like asking, "Excuse me, young man." This was Anne. "Excuse me, young man. Could you tell me the time, please?" And
Oh,
and it was like, "What's I said, I haven't got my phone on me because
right.
we have to keep our stuff at the back, on the filming." But I did ask one of the crew, and she was like, "It's no problem." And it was like, so it's 4:30, like, and she
Oh,
noticed the accent, and she said, "Young man, where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Merthyr Tydfil." "Oh, really? Splendid." And and she said,
oh,
is that near Llandudno?" No, I said, "No, that's South Wales." I said, "It might be a Merthyr house or Merthyr, because she was telling me she went to Llandudno when she went to grammar school, in the 50s." And
oh,
so it was brief, it was brief, but it was nice to have a conversation, because I thought at first, when people met, when I mentioned Merthyr, because I live in the borough of Merthyr, some people sort of, because it has got bad press by the media, which I think is uncalled for, but
mm, yeah,
it is what it is.
really.
But I think Merthyr is quite a down to earth area,
Mhm.
But I thought it was going to be, "Oh, right, okay," but it was like, splendid,
Oh,
and James, we were talking now, and I was being honest with him, being a TV fan of his. The first thing that came to my head was a TV show when I was a child called Only When I Laugh,
uh-huh.
and it was a famous soundtrack, Happy. So I said, that's all I had in my head is, "I'm Happy, I'm Happy," and he was like, he said, "How old are you then?" And I said, "Oh, I'm." This was 2021. I said, "I'm 44." And he said, "I thought you were a bit young to watch Only When I Laugh." I said, "Oh, it was on the telly when I was a child, even the repeats in the 80s." And even though he was famous for The Likely Lads and Grandpa in My Pocket, and Old
Mhm.
Tricks, and I even went as far as the first film he ever did, called The Crucible of Terror, which was this small Hammer type horror film, and
Oh,
set in Cornwall, and he said, "Oh, that's even." Further than the 50s, further than the 50s. I said, "I remember watching it when it was on Friday night on BBC,
oh
and
my
so
goodness.
we just had those little beef chats, sort of thing." And
That's amazing. I'm sure that meant everything to them that you, being younger than
yeah,
what they expected.
and even the crew on, yeah, oh yeah, it was like, I was always brought up with uh, comedy, comedies, and like the lads. I heard of them, but I sort of watched them when I was sort of in my late teens. But Only When I Laugh was the comedy of his time, and and that was when I first discovered James Boland, and Chris Marshall, when I mentioned about Chris Marshall nearly tipping his drink, and you get one or two like, who's Chris Marshall? And I was like, my family, and what's the other one? Love Actually.
Yes, that's my favorite movie.
You know, where he he's got looking for American girls, and that's the only thing. But my family was one of those comedy, I think was his big break, because a funny thing, I did actually work on a TV drama with the main actor Robert Lindsay. From my family, he was in a TV film called Friends and Crocodiles.
I'm so sorry.
Is that your dog?
It's my dog. He's a Great Pyrenees. Hold on just a moment.
All right. What dog is it?
He's Arthur. It's okay, buddy. He's a Great Pyrenees. So he's a I don't know if you have many of those in Wales. It's a French and Spanish. They live in the Pyrenees Mountains, and they're mountain dogs. He's about 150.
All right, because he looks like a really tall dog, and especially his tail.
Arthur, come here, buddy.
Yeah, bring him along.
He may or may not come over. He watches the perimeter outside, and if anything breaks his perimeter, he's very focused. So I'm so sorry for that. I thought that might happen.
That's no problem. That's no problem.
I've seen on your Instagram you are a dog lover as well.
Yeah, I take photos of dogs during my spare time, during my spare time when I go for my little walks, and there's like some dogs that back in my place that's got their own characteristics, and because there's a dog in Trillowes named Lexi, and then there's one. It was on my old Instagram, which got sadly hacked. There's a photo of her sort of, it looked like an Egyptian dance sort of thing.
Oh my goodness!
I think I still got the photo somewhere. I just haven't had a chance to put in my new Instagram account, but I usually.
It's too bad.
I used to have dogs when I was a child, sort of thing. But at the moment, it feels cruel to have a dog if I'm working away, sort of thing.
Sure.
And because you could have like a family unit or your own time to have a dog, but I do love dogs.
Good. Well, thank you. I felt so bad. It was funny because the same thing happened when I was talking to Dom James, orchestrator. Somebody UPS came and knocked on the door, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, Dom." He's like, "It's totally fine." I don't know why I feel like people are going to be so affronted by the dog, but so I think it just brings your character in when somebody's got a dog. So don't be embarrassed or anything like that. It's part of you. Very much so. Thank you for appreciating that. And I can tell you're an animal lover because you also take pictures of sheep. So you live close to sheep. Are they just out in the fields near your home?
Yes, it is. We live in a farm. Yeah. Well, last week, me and my family, because it was my birthday last week. And yeah, and
birthday,
and it was Father's Day, so so we were waiting for our meal. So while we were waiting, I was taking photos, and I taking photos with sheep, and then all of a sudden there was this sheep with a big smile on his face, and I didn't notice it until I sort of taken the picture, snap,
and then you see it,
and I was looking at it. Oh, he smiled at me. Because usually sheep in Wales just run away. But I don't know. And they just take the photo, and it was like big smile, as in like, hey, look at me.
That one must have liked you.
Yeah. There was a cat when I used to pick up my son named Mr. Gray, and yeah, and he would always lay on the ground, and it would usually like to stretch his arms, and it was when I used to pick up my son from school and all this. But since I think the last 6 months he's moved to the valley called the Rhondda Valley, which is just like over the hills. It's about 2 or 3 hills that is supposed to be living up there, sadly. But that was only one out of 10 cats I've taken photos of that it would keep still. And, that there's no, budgies and the right eye goes out of focus,
Oh,
but
I'm sure it's
no,
difficult.
I just usually like to take photos because I think even animals have got their own little stories,
Mhm.
and their own characteristics.
They do. So you must have encountered, did you encounter Hannibal, the horse on Sanditon, or Luna, the lurcher?
No, there were horses, they were either from the essays and all that, but at the time, I I didn't actually speak to, because I was in the house at the time, and then when they call you because there was one point I had to open um the horse carriage, and it was very difficult because it was like there were like two catches from the outside and the inside, and I
Mhm.
had to make sure to turn it right, and it took. Yeah, I couldn't open it too slow, but I couldn't open it too fast either. And
Right.
and it taken until the person in the horse got us right. This is how you open it, and because I didn't want to open it too, because you had like Ben who played Alexandra, and then the little girl and
Yes.
Rose.
Yeah.
I didn't want to open it and all of a sudden they fall out, and I was trying to be as professional as possible. So
Sure.
once I knew how to open it, but it'd taken a couple of takes, just to open this horse carriage sort of thing. Like I was told that there were horses that had names, but I didn't, because when you working as an essay, you can't be a pain in the backside asking what's the name of the horse, unless you got that connection with the actors or the crew and all that, and
Mm.
so I'll just wait for the conversation. If Ben says good morning, or even like the the little girl or Rose or anything like that, even the crew, I remember talking. There was a crew, mainly women. There was somewhere there was mainly a mix, or there was mainly men, but there was one that I thought it was like a really good order. There was like this crew of women. You had a woman director, you had a DOP. I think her name was Kat, and she used to wear a black hat, and I found that quite intriguing. It was kind of like a motif, and we had a conversation about the black hat, and she said that she used to wear it when she went to film school, and all this, and we were talking
Oh,
about DOP. We were talking about DOPs, and we were talking about a DOP name. I can't pronounce his first name, but his surname is Storaro. He shot The Last Emperor and Apocalypse Now, and all that. And how he talks about cinematography, it's quite scientific and mathematical and technical, and I found that quite intriguing, but I found that a bit, that's a bit too much for me. As long as I know where the camera points,
uh-huh.
like Jack Cardiff, if when he talked about lighting, he would talk about it like a painting or theater and all that. I got no problems with that, but when he's talking about like science I thought that's a bit too that's a bit too much. And she said the similar thing, is just as long as you liked it, and it looks good, that's okay with her. There was never any science or anything like that, but she did find it intrigue, and we did have like a Mal's, not full on, because it was sort of in between a lunch break and all that, but and then it was a really good DOP, who was also a woman, who I think would make a good film director, and I'd probably have to somehow, I know her name begins with R and all that, but she was like a really good professional who I think would make a brilliant film director in the future, because usually third assistants start off as film or television directors, and they'd be like third AD sort of thing,
Mhm.
and because there was a bit where we were directed on how to open the doors and open the windows for the Colbournes to arrive at this building, and trying to do it without giving a plot away, and so the third assistant said, right, we had to do it not too fast, but not too slow either. So
Oh,
so there's, as I say, so there was a bit where I had to open the wooden doors, and one of the other essays who was like a governess sort of thing, uh, uh, had to do something else, and we had to do it before the Austen cart came along. And when we were watching it, it was really well choreographed. With the third assistant and the camera, the camera crew, because it was very what they call steady cam, and we had to go with the pace with the camera and all that, and that was one of the days. That was a good pay as well, because we had to it had to be choreographed until we get outside the door for the Colbournes to come out of the Austen cart, and I hope I haven't given any plot
no, you haven't.
away. No,
Not
right,
at all.
good.
Not at all.
But if you ever watch the episode, you probably know what I'm talking about.
I do. I
Right,
do.
good. Right.
So were you on were the interior scenes at Herrick Park inside of Stone Easton Park, or was that somewhere else? It sounds like you were in the same location as what was being shot out.
No, I was mainly at the grey house. I was mainly at that grey house, inside and outside. So so there was one bit where I had to whisper to Colbourne, Alexandra Colbourne, about how many pheasants have been shot, which I don't think you see the cut, but I do ring. I ring the bell. I ring the bell, and the Colbournes. Again, don't know what episode it was. Alexander said, right, our thingy said how many pheasants been shot, sort of thing, and so because I was told, right, I had to ring a bell. That's when there's another. So when I get paid, then there would be a little bit extra because I rang the bell. So,
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. So there's so much detail that goes into specifically how that works, depending on as an essay. It just seems like there's such tiny details that what your day looks like.
Yeah, it's like, as I say, the majority of the time during the 3 to 4 weeks, I was taking hats and coats off the family if they were entering the building or leaving the building. So I would give them their hats or their walking sticks, and the bell. It was to do with. I'm trying to think which actor it was, but I don't know if it was Jack Fox. Don't quote me on it, because I haven't seen the series yet.
You haven't seen it yet? Oh, because
it's going to be broadcast on ITVX on the 3rd of August. And so I haven't got, as I say, I haven't got this idea. And I think at the same time as well, I try to make sure not to give any plots away, because that's the other job. Even on Doctor Who, and another one, there was another TV show I did, was Gavin and Stacey, and it was when Smithy stops the wedding and all that, and we were told not to tell anyone about.
Oh my gosh, that must have been so hard to keep in.
The ending, and even with Doctor Who, I was told not to tell, even though it wasn't the main plot, but it was the bit where Matt Smith's doctor says, "I'm sorry, Roy, but you just died," and even though that wasn't the main plot, but I could easily said, "Oh, Roy Williams dies," but he dies, but he doesn't die at that certain part of the plot,
Oh my goodness.
But we still treated it as the end, the ending, and as I say, with anything, I try to be until the show is broadcast, try not to tell anyone the end, the endings, and
absolutely,
and as I say, with the choreograph scene, I didn't know if it was the beginning of the show or the ending of the show, but but it was all, let's be careful not to say what happens with what, because I don't even know, you know. But if somebody that's watched the shows, it's like giving the plot away, and it has happened to where essays have told the newspapers that they've seen a Dalek, and you know, and you know, when in the Christopher Eccleston show that the Dalek, somebody taking a photo of a Dalek and put it in the newspapers, and you know, it's, you know, and it just spoils it for everyone, you know.
It does, and that's awful. Everybody should be able to experience it on their own.
You know, you know, you know, but when I've done extra work in the past, I don't mind telling like my little story, you know, my little stories. I remember my grandfather when he was alive. I went to visit him at hospital after doing some extra work, and he said, "Oh, where have you come from?" And I said, "Oh, I've been up to Bilf Wells and just had a bacon sandwich." And you know, and it's like it's about 30 to 40 miles. And he said, "Why did you go and get a bacon sandwich for?" And I said, "Oh, I did some extra work, and all I had to do was eat 2 bacon sandwiches after an hour, got paid, and went home." And you know, but I don't mind telling those stories. But when it came to like stuff like Gavin and Stacey, I didn't tell anyone until it was broadcast. And I think out of all the extra work that I've done, I'm very well known in my local area of being in Gavin and Stacey, and because of the wedding, because it was very, you know, it was very famous at the time. I was sitting behind the main characters, and so that's all. Every 6 months, if it's broadcast on satellite, somebody said, "Oh, I've been watching Gavin and Stacey, saw you on Gavin and Stacey," and. And then another one I did was Merlin. And even though you don't see me, you see a shadow. I shot Prince Arthur with a crossbow in season 3, episode 9.
Oh, no.
You see a shadow, and then all of a sudden a close-up, and he gets shot by a crossbow. And it's actually my shadow. You see a shadow from a distance.
Yeah.
And so my stepson, who was a big Merlin fan, I said to him that he said, what was your job today? I said, I shot Prince Arthur with a crossbow.
Oh no, my dog is named after King Arthur. So.
He survived.
So he
survived. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and then another one then was Casualty. It's like a big TV drama by BBC, and my first job was to be a corpse. And
what was that like?
It was interesting, but how I had the job was even more funnier.
Let's hear it.
Is with a different agency rang me up and said, "Oh, have you been on Casualty?" No, never been on Casualty. Right, do you want to be on Casualty? Yes. And they said, right, there is it's not a problem, but some people have turned it down. Are you okay being a corpse? And I was like, no, I've got no problems with that. And they said, are you sure? The people have been freaked out about it. And it's like, I said, it's not like I'm going to talk anyhow, is it? And so I went down to Bristol, laid on his table, and because I think some of it as well, they thought being a corpse you had to be totally starkers, and it was like, no, it wasn't. They just showed a close up of me, and my shoulders was naked. I had the green trousers on, everything like that. They just had to do the shots in different angles. But the funny thing was, when the show was broadcast, this was in 2010. They said, can you describe, because it was a guy with learning difficulties who was looking for his brother, and this police officer said, can you describe him? And he's like, oh, he's tall and he's ginger. And if you sort of look at me, there's no ginger. And so I don't know if there was a miscommunication or anything like that, but everybody that watched it, it was like, you definitely wasn't his brother, you're not ginger. And so I don't know if they just they just get anyone that says yes, but at the time they just said to me, would you be a corpse? And then the first ever extra job I did was for a Welsh language production, and I was supposed to be clean shaven. Right, I was told, right, make sure you clean shave on the first day, and all this. You were supposed to be like a Victorian posh guy. So I said, right, okay. So I went down to Cardiff, went to this what used to be quick save shop. It was turned into like a mini studio, and they sort of came in now, and the makeup woman said, right, you're going to be a beggar now, and I thought, okay. So they sort of looked at me now. I was 26 at the time, and it was like, where's your bristle? And I said, what bristle? And they said, you're supposed to be an homeless person. And sometimes, and it's usually an older makeup woman, starts getting a little bit knocked off about it. And they said, we can't scruff you up. They were doing this, like making my hair look scruffy and all this now. And they said, you don't look like a beggar. And I said, what do beggars look like? They're supposed to look ill. You look healthy, and you've got lovely piercing eyes. And I said, can I work? And she said, no, you're supposed to be for ages. I said, well, beggars had to start somewhere, but after all that, they just had to do like a long shot. There was me, and there was another essay that was beggars, and we were told that he had gangrene with his leg, and even though it's not heard, we had to come up with a storyline that I was going to cut off his leg. And in the conversation, and when we talk, we had to mimic. So when we talk, we have to do and pretend that we're talking, and we have to do it when we do discos as well. So if we listen to I don't know, like Take That, and we're dancing along now, and all of a sudden 10 seconds, and we have to keep on dancing like this now, going with the rhythm, not knowing what the tune is. And so us essays have to mimic a lot. So it's like silent movie, and which is quite fun. It's quite creative, and we just make up our little stories and all that. And when you watch the show, it looks like we're natural and talking about something else instead of like
right. I've wondered that. So when you do that, you're not actually making any sound. You are truly just mimicking when you're in the background. You're not actually speaking. You're just
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Huh. So if they focusing on the main actors, they got to make, if they got like a really high-pitched person in the background talking, that's why. Because the other thing I find interesting is if you're filming weddings, they tell you is do not wear a white shirt. No, it's got to be colored. It's got to be colored because they say if you wear a white shirt, it bounces. So if a bride is wearing a white dress,
sure,
the white, if too many whites, it will bounce. It would bounce everything, and so that's why they tell every essay to make sure you wear like a blue shirt or a red shirt. It can't be white. And I find that interesting because when I've gone to real weddings, the majority of men wear white shirts, and and so,
they do.
And yet, I never seen a photographer saying, right, who's the silly buggered, and it's like, right, it's usually right, tall guy in the back, short person in the front, and there's never like, right, there's no silly bugger wearing white shirts, and it's but in movie magic, no one wears a white shirt, unless it's a funeral. But it's supposed to, it takes over the bride's dress sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
It's and it is quite interesting, and like even movie magic sometimes when I've been an essay, if one essay has let him down, I've been called to be that person, but they got to make sure that my head isn't exposed. So if I'm in one shot in the middle and then there's a side shot, where you just sort of turn your head like that, turn your head like that, and another thing with Merlin, if they were looking for 100 dead bodies after big wars and stuff like that, they would get 10 extras, but we have to be 100 dead people, but in different positions. It's so it'd be like, right, okay, John, you laid on your back, then you lay on your side, and it'd be like left side, right side, leg up, leg down, and and we have to do it 100 times. We have to do it 10 times to make 100 dead people.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
And then there was another one on Merlin. We had to, if there was like 100 soldiers, so you have like 10 extras in a queue, then we had to do what they call arm's length. So we put our arms like that. So we would move a couple of things. So keep our arms like that to make sure the continuity of the line is correct.
Okay.
And they were CGI all the extras, and then probably do different heads and all that. But it is quite creative how they do this. And when you watch Merlin, I probably wouldn't know which one is me, because there'd be like hundreds or thousands of me, sort of that. I don't know if you heard of the TV show Where's Wally, or there was books where there was a guy with glasses, and you have to find Where's Wally, and he's like a guy with a red and white bobble hat. And so you look at this big picture.
Yes.
Yeah, where's Wally? Yeah,
Yes.
So unless I got a bobble hat, I would not have a clue which one I'm in, and it's like, oh, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too much. But I've even explained it to my stepson, he was more of a Doctor Who fan and a Merlin fan, and when I saw it was like, which one is it? And it's like, I don't know. We would do it. We would do this, and it would take between an hour to 3 hours to make sure that it's all right. Like being a dead person about 10 times, that wasn't a problem. You just like so I would say where I'd be a dead person, then in the back end I would have to lie in a different corner, in different angle, and as I say, it was quite interesting how it works, sort of thing.
I've always wondered, because you mentioned you've played a corpse, so you were the only dead body in that scene.
Yeah.
How did you have any tricks so that you couldn't see your chest rising and falling as you were breathing?
I laid still, but as because I remember one of the camera people was filming, and they were trying to get close up, and then all of a sudden the only bit I could not keep still was my neck. They could actually see my neck beating.
Oh, okay.
There, and it was like, all right, we've got a problem with that shot. His neck was beaten, and it was like, and then I sort of like, oh, I'm sorry, and it's like, that's not your fault, and he said, we just can't. You're fine. It's just we can't use that shot. We can't use that shot because I the neck beating at one point. So in the end, when they did the shot, it was a side shot. It was sort of like, so when you look at it, you could not. It's sort of like a camera sort of pans up to my head, and then you got the actors. Is that your brother? And you got the guy, and that was my scene, sort of thing. And
I've
But
always. Hey guys, Anna Marie here. I just wanted to do a quick check-in and say thank you for watching part 1 of our chat with John Ninnis, supporting artist on Sanditon. The second part will be coming at you next week. And I do just want to say thank you so much to John for being so gracious with his time and telling us amazing stories that we get to share with everybody. John, thank you so much. It was a true pleasure. And everybody, you'll be seeing us next week.